Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
Beneath the surface of the sea, where the water turns dark and the world slows to a hush, there lives a creature that may never die. Not in the way we think of death, anyway. It's called Turritopsis doana asterisk, but some just call it the immortal jellyfish. Imagine drifting through the ocean for years, centuries even, never aging, never fatting. When hurt or old, it simply folds back into youth, like rewinding a story instead of ending it. In a quiet miracle of biology, it becomes young again, slipping backward in time, cell by cell, until it starts anew. How strange, how slow, how secret this life is. No drama, no alarms, just a soft return to the beginning. Somewhere in this slow loop lies a secret that nature doesn't share loudly. Most of us are born, we grow, we age, and we stop. But this jellyfish says, "What if I don't?" Scientists call it transdifferentiation, a long word for a beautiful idea. It means that one type of cell can become another. A muscle cell becomes a nerve cell. A skin cell becomes something else entirely. Like a story changing its own ending just by dreaming of another path. Humans can't do this, not yet. But the jellyfish does it like a breath, silently, softly, rewriting itself with no need to explain. And it's not just this jellyfish. There are others, scattered across Earth, hiding in salt marshes and cave pools, who carry strange gifts. Some worms can regrow entire bodies from tiny pieces. Some fish survive frozen in ice. Some tardigrades, tiny plump creatures that walk like slow bears, can dry out completely, then wake up years later like nothing ever happened. Life is weirder than we were told. Not chaotic, just unusual and very, very patient. These are not loud things. They don't scream for attention. They just are, soft truths wrapped in strange bodies. The jellyfish's journey backward, from adulthood to polyp, from polyp to fresh youth, is not fast. It takes time, gentle time, as if the sea itself sings it back to childhood. It anchors to a rock, curls into a simpler shape, and starts again. No fanfare, no finish line. It knows that endings are not always necessary. Not for everyone, not here. What does it feel like to live this way, to forget the fear of the end? We can only guess. We are built differently, but that's why we watch. Why we study, why we wonder at it from the shore. And still, the immortal jellyfish is not truly immortal. Not in the way legends say. It can be eaten, it can be crushed. It can vanish in an oil spill or vanish beneath plastic tides. But it does not die from time alone. That's the gift. Time cannot touch it in the way it touches us. No wrinkles, no wear, just renewal. We don't know why it evolved this way. Maybe it had no choice. Maybe the deep ocean shaped it this way, quiet pressure over centuries whispering, survive, but differently. So we stare at it through thick glass. We run tests, we take notes. And sometimes we close our eyes and imagine, what if we could rewind too? What if our bodies could shed age like trees shed leaves? What would it mean to live without decay? Would we still change? Would we still grow if there was no fear of the end? These are heavy questions, but the jellyfish doesn't ask them. It just floats. Soft, pulsing, unknowable. Its very existence is a kind of gentle defiance against time. Imagine holding a creature that has undone its own aging. Imagine watching it fall backward into childhood not once, but again and again. It's not magic, it's biology, but biology that behaves like myth. In this corner of the sea, death is not a wall. It's a door that opens the wrong way. And through that door, the jellyfish slides silently, like a thought you almost forgot, coming back when you least expect it. Here, in the strange, slow tide of the deep, life finds a different rhythm. So if one day you find yourself beside the sea and the world feels too fast, remember this small secret. Somewhere far below, a tiny jellyfish is growing young again. Not rushing, not resisting, just letting time pass in circles, just listening to the sea and drifting toward the beginning. Now imagine the deep sea not as a dark place, but as a gentle cradle of forgotten experiments. Down where light barely reaches, where pressure presses softly but firmly on every living thing, Evolution has taken its time, and in that quiet patience, it has written strange scripts into the DNA of the creatures that live there. The immortal jellyfish is one of its gentlest stories, but there are others, just as quiet, just as weird, just as calm in their defiance of the ordinary. Some of these lives don't even breathe like we do. Some don't age. Some barely seem alive at all until they are, quietly, completely. In this watery world, life doesn't roar, it hums like a memory. To understand this immortality, we need to float deeper into what a cell really is. Inside each living cell is a library of blueprints, DNA curled tightly like sleeping thread. When we age, those blueprints wear out, not like books being torn, but like words fatting softly from a page. The immortal jellyfish seems to find a way to make the words fresh again. Scientists believe it activates certain genes that tell its cells to become new again, to go back to their earliest form. That early stage, called a polyp, is like being reborn as a tiny sea blossom. It's not that it doesn't die, it's that it chooses to restart. Slowly, silently, over and over again. This is not a choice made in a rush. Nothing in the sea is fast unless it must be. For the jellyfish, the decision to reverse is triggered by stress, starvation, temperature changes, or physical damage. It's almost as if pain itself becomes the signal to begin again. A wound becomes a whisper, "You may go back now." In this way, it survives not by running forward but by folding in on itself like a sleeping leaf. The process is not flashy. You won't see it happening with your eyes. But under the microscope, a ballet of cell changes begins, a slow dance that rewinds time. And perhaps that's what makes it so haunting. We are used to life moving forward, always aging, always adding years. But this life subtracts them, not just pretending, not just pausing, but truly revering the biology of age. If time is a river, the jellyfish finds a hidden current beneath the flow and drifts the other way. Its cells don't panic, they remember. They remember what it was like to be new. That memory, buried in all life, is strongest here. It awakens, it obeys. It rebuilds the creature from its own soft pieces. Humans can't yet copy this process, though we dream of it. Some scientists study stem cells, which behave a little like jellyfish cells, able to become many things, ready to rebuild. Others look at gene expression and cell signaling, wondering if we too have hidden codes that, if unlocked, could soften the march of time. But the jellyfish doesn't wonder, it does. In its quiet loops of life, it offers no answers, only presence. It keeps going backward until forward feels possible again. Until the pain has passed. Until the body is young and blank like a new canvas, waiting. And yet this isn't the only creature who challenges time. The axolotl, a delicate salamander with a frill of gills like lace around its face, can regrow entire limbs, parts of its heart, even pieces of its brain. It too defies the usual path of decline. And then there are hydras, tiny freshwater animals that may also avoid aging altogether. Their cells renew constantly. They divide endlessly, gently, never losing the recipe for youth. It's a kind of biological humility. Instead of fighting decay, they replace it. Not with noise, with repetition, with patience, with softness. All of this raises quiet questions about what aging really is. Is it a loss, a forgetting, or just a choice some creatures no longer make? In the jellyfish, in the hydra, and the axolotl, we see aging not as a necessity but a rhythm that can be paused or reversed. It's not magic, it's structure. It's a different way to read the instructions life has written into every cell. These creatures read the pages backwards, and somehow the story still makes sense, maybe even more sense. A circle instead of a line, a lullaby instead of an alarm. And what might this teach us, not just about science, but about being alive? That maybe endings aren't as fixed as we think. That maybe softness, not speed, holds the answers. That maybe nature has many timelines and some of them loop gently through the same points over and over. The jellyfish doesn't teach with words. It teaches with its being. Its loops are lessons. Its stillness is a kind of speech. And if we are quiet long enough, we may begin to understand. So now close your eyes and picture that fragile creature again, floating in the deep like a thought made of silk. It has no brain, no heart, no spine. And yet it remembers how to be young. It remembers how to become again. This is the strangeness of life explained slowly, not through explosions or chaos, but through calm reversals, through cycles, through echoes in the dark, through a single creature who forgets how to die, and teaches us that the most surprising kind of wisdom might be the one that drifts instead of fights. Now drift deeper into this thought. What if time isn't a single straight path but a fabric, soft and folding, with creases and loops where certain lives can tuck themselves in and start again? The immortal jellyfish does not shout against aging, it whispers past it. As other organisms grow old and fall away, it curls inward, slips into a simpler shape and returns to the beginning. And what's more poetic than that? A life that sings the same lullaby over and over, each time softer, smoother, and somehow still new. It is not rebirth in the mystical sense. It is not reincarnation. It is just biology, moving in a circle instead of a line. And yet, doesn't it feel spiritual? Doesn't it feel like the ocean itself has written a secret song into the cells of this tiny, drifting creature? When we think of death, we think of a full stop. But the jellyfish writes commas, pauses, gentle loops. It doesn't deny the harshness of the world, it simply finds another way to live within it. When stress or damage arrives, it doesn't resist. It surrenders into youth. This, too, is a form of intelligence, not of thought, but of design. Its structure is its wisdom. Its silence is its language. And perhaps that's what makes it feel so ancient. Not because it's loud, or large, or dominant, but because it moves with the patience of something that does not need to hurry. Scientists studying this creature do not yet fully understand how the process works. The cellular signals, the genetic instructions, the slow choreography of transformation, all of it is still being mapped. But what they do know is that this process happens again and again, not as a trick, but as a function of life. And maybe that's the real lesson. That weirdness is not an accident. That strangeness in nature is often just another kind of balance, a balance we don't yet recognize. The jellyfish doesn't choose between life and death. It exists in a place between, moving gently from one to the other and back again. And this strange rhythm has meaning beyond the sea. It asks questions without speaking. What would we do if we could reset? If we could return to the start not just once but many times? Would we live differently? Would we love more patiently? Would we let ourselves grow slowly, knowing there was no rush? The immortal jellyfish lives these questions. It doesn't answer them. But its body is a quiet possibility that maybe not all things must end the way we think they do. That perhaps life has more shapes than we've imagined, some round, some spiraled, some made of gentle rebeginnings. And there's something comforting in knowing that such a life exists, even if we can never live it ourselves. That somewhere in the blue hush of the ocean, a creature is growing young again. That somewhere age is not a loss but a turning, a new beginning folded into the old. We may not be able to follow it, but we can dream with it. We can let its softness teach us, not how to escape aging, but how to see it differently. Not as an enemy, but as a phase, a bend. A place to rest before the next song begins. And so, the jellyfish becomes more than a scientific curiosity. It becomes a symbol, a soft monument to nature's flexibility. It reminds us that the laws we think are firm may only be guidelines, that biology is full of exceptions, and that beauty often hides in the quiet ones, the ones that don't rush, the ones that don't demand to be seen. The immortal jellyfish is barely larger than a fingernail, and yet it holds an entire philosophy within its pulsing dome. A way of being that lets go of permanence and embraces the loop. Let your thoughts sink alongside it now, down into the cool, still places of the world. Picture the jellyfish, suspended in its watery sky, drifting slowly, pulsing gently, rewriting its story with every soft contraction. It does not know how strange it is. It does not know that we marvel at it. It simply is. And that may be the most mysterious thing of all. So the next time life feels like a race you cannot win, think of this creature who never hurries, never finishes, never fears the end. The one who folds time like a blanket, wraps itself inside, and emerges quietly new. Not because it wants to be forever, but because it knows how to begin again. Slowly, softly, always. In the soft hush of a bog, where the air hangs heavy with damp and time feels slow, there lives a stillness that is not quite what it seems. The mosses and reeds wave gently, the sky reflects in tiny black pools, and everything looks quiet until you look closer, until you peer deep into the green and see a leaf tremble when no wind blows, a petal shiver like it has just tasted something. These are plants, yes, but they are not only sun drinkers and root growers. They are hunters. Silent, secret hunters who do not chase but wait, and when the moment comes they close, not with sound, not with speed, but with a kind of slow finality, like a breath being held underwater. The Venus flytrap waits, and then it doesn't. Are taught that plants are passive. They grow, they bloom, they sway in the breeze, but not these. Carnivorous plants have found a different way to survive. In the wet soils where nutrients are scarce, where roots stretch but find little, they evolve to find their meals not below but above. They eat insects, some eat frogs, some dissolve them slowly in pools of digestive liquid. Some lure them with scents, shapes, and shimmering colors. It is not violence, it is not cruelty, it is chemistry and patience. Evolution curling toward hunger in the only way it can when stuck to the ground. These plants do not run, but they wait with purpose. The Venus flytrap doesn't snap its trap at the first touch. It waits, it counts. Each trap has tiny hairs, and only when two hairs are touched in quick succession does it close. One touch, maybe just rain, two, now it knows. This simple memory, brief, electric, and real, tells the plant that life has arrived. And in less than a second the trap folds inward. It is not mechanical, it is alive. A surge of ions moves through cells, water shifts, and the leaves move like a hand closing softly around a secret. The insect is trapped. The plant begins to digest. The still green thing becomes something more. Elsewhere in the world, pitcher plants stretch their open throats skyward. They are cups, chalices, deep wells lined with slick surfaces and tiny hairs that point down. At the bottom waits a pool of enzymes. Sweet nectar draws the curious in. A beetle, a fly, a small frog. Once inside, escape is almost impossible. The walls are too smooth, the angles are too clever. Slowly, gently, the prey tires, slips, falls, drowns in silence. And the plant begins its feast, not in a frenzy, but in a long, quiet unraveling of nutrients. Nothing is wasted, nothing is rushed. And then there are the sundews whose leaves glitter with droplets that look like morning dew. But these are not water, they are glue, sweet, sticky, and deadly. An insect lands drawn by the shine and finds itself stuck. The more it struggles, the more it becomes entangled. The sundew does not pounce. It curls slowly, deliberately, wrapping its leaf around the prey like a gentle ribbon. Then it waits. Digestion begins. The insect vanishes. The plant unfolds again, ready, patient, shining in the light as if nothing happened. This quiet violence is not cruel, it is elegant. It is nature's way of saying that life will always find a way, even without teeth, even without claws, even when rooted in place. These plants do not move from where they grow, but they are not helpless. Their genius lies in stillness, in adaptation, in the silent language of chemicals and structures and slow, ancient hunger. They do not chase, they do not roar, but they are alive with purpose. And in their silence they challenge our idea of what plants are. They are not only background, not only green, they are active, reactive. Some even seem to make decisions, simple as they are, when to close, when to open, when to wait. We used to think only animals could do that. But the line between animal and plant blurs in these quiet hunters. They remind us that life is not divided as neatly as we thought, that intention can exist even in stillness. So the next time you pass a patch of moss or glance at a flower, ask yourself, what else is hiding here? What hunger? What patience? What ancient trick of survival that wears a green face and waits in silence? Somewhere, a leaf is counting, a petal is planning, and a plant is dreaming of its next meal. Let's drift now into the deeper chemistry of their quiet hunt, into the unseen signals that travel not through nerves but through sap and cell. In a Venus flytrap, when an insect touches those trigger hairs, something electric stirs. A tiny charge builds, not lightning, not shock, but something much smaller, an action potential similar to what races through human nerves. But this one hums through a leaf. It tells the trap to close, not because it feels, but because it knows. This spark is plant logic. This is how green stillness becomes action. The moment the trap closes, the real work begins. Special cells begin secreting acids and enzymes, breaking down the body of the fly slowly, methodically. The nutrients seep in: nitrogen, phosphorus, even bits of protein. What was once buzzing in the air becomes food, absorbed through a mouth made of leaves. The pitcher plants do it differently. They do not move. They are open bowls with slippery walls and deep, fluid-filled chambers. Their strength lies in passivity, in perfect design. Prey are not grabbed, they are lured. Colors, patterns, and sugary nectar work together like a quiet invitation. Once an insect slips, the downward-pointing hairs prevent it from climbing back out. Some pitcher plants even host small ecosystems inside them. Tiny aquatic insects, larvae, and even frogs live in the pitcher's water, feeding on trapped prey and contributing to the digestion process. It is a living stomach, a habitat that feeds the host even as it shelters life. This cooperation, this strange balance, is nature's way: nothing wasted, everything folded into something else. Then in tropical parts of the world we find bladderworts. These are underwater carnivores, delicate and thread-like, with tiny bladders that act like suction traps. When a small aquatic creature touches the trapdoor, it opens in less than a millisecond, sucking in water and prey before snapping shut. There is no thinking here, just perfect mechanics. A tiny vacuum built into a plant, a trigger, a rush, a seal, all faster than a blink. These are not passive organisms, they are engineers. Architects. Their bodies have become precision machines, evolved through eons to master hunger in the stillest ways. What drives a plant to do this? Not greed, not desire, but soil. Thin, acidic, nutrient-poor soil. These wetlands and swamps and bogs are beautiful, but they do not feed easily. And so evolution offered another way. A path through hunger that uses what the air offers instead of what lies below. These plants are not cruel for eating life. They are simply making a living where living is hard. Their beauty hides their purpose. Their softness conceals a cunning shaped by survival. But it is not just the killing that is remarkable, it's the sensing, the deciding. Sundews do not wrap themselves around every speck of dust. They can tell the difference between the footstep of an insect and the kiss of the wind. Their tentacles move only when truly triggered. It's not intelligence in the way we define it, but it is perception, a kind of awareness. Cells sensing touch, movement, chemistry, responding with purpose. And slowly, researchers are beginning to realize that plants as a whole are more aware than we once believed. Plants listen. They respond to light, gravity, touch, water. Some can even detect sound. Their roots grow toward moisture they cannot yet reach. Their leaves turn toward light they cannot yet feel. Carnivorous plants add another layer. They sense life. They trap it. They digest it, all while rooted in place, all while silent. This is awareness without a brain, perception without eyes, memory without a mind. A kind of still consciousness that runs through the veins of the green world. And we are only beginning to understand it. Science now shows us that plants communicate, not with words or voices, but with chemicals and electric pulses. A wounded leaf releases signals that warn nearby plants. Roots share resources through fungal threads, a vast underground network like a whispering forest beneath our feet. And perhaps in the bogs and marshes where carnivorous plants thrive, these whispers include other things: tiny pulses, signals of presence, the weight of wings, the heat of motion, a world of messages, silent but sure. Even the way these plants reproduce is strange. Some make flowers that mimic the scent of rotting meat to attract flies, not as prey, but as pollinators. Others time their blooming and trapping so that one does not interfere with the other, ensuring that the insects they depend on to spread seeds are not the ones they eat. It is a balance between death and life, a delicate design that ensures continuation, a quiet wisdom passed down not through words but through form. So next time you stand near a bog, near a pond edge dotted with strange blossoms and sticky glimmers, know this: you are not just among plants. You are in the company of ancient hunters. They will not chase you. They will not move to greet you, but their patience is profound. Their methods are silent and their ways are older than your own. Somewhere just inches from your shoes a trap waits to close, not with rage, not with sound, but with purpose built leaf by leaf over millions of years. Now let's rest beneath a canopy of stillness and look again at these quiet hunters, not with fear but with respect. The Venus flytrap, the sundew, the pitcher plant, the bladderwort, each one a soft rebellion against what plants are supposed to be. We expect green to mean peace. We expect roots to mean passivity. But these lives have bent those rules gently, patiently, without ever leaving the ground. They did not run from the world that denied them nutrients. They adapted. They didn't shout. They whispered differently, and those whispers turned into teeth, into traps, into cups of fluid and curls of glue. Nature did not make them violent, it made them precise. In the still hours between rain and sun, in swamps where no foot has stepped, these plants continue their work. A beetle crawls across a leaf, a mosquito hovers too close, a tadpole slips into the quiet pool of a pitcher. The cycle begins again, not as drama but as rhythm, a quiet choreography of hunger and balance. The plant takes, the plant lives. The insect returns to the soil eventually in a different form. Nothing is lost in nature. Everything transforms. And in this cycle, even the most unusual lives find their place. And what does this strange form of life teach us? That survival is not only about strength, it's about patience. It's about learning to use what is offered, light, air, insects, time. Carnivorous plants do not consume out of greed. They do not take more than they need. They are efficient, careful, even elegant. They are slow. And in that slowness there is a kind of peace. A flytrap may wait days with its mouth open, unmoving. A pitcher plant may wait weeks before its pool is full. This is not lazy time. This is focused time, a sacred waiting, a still, silent strategy sculpted by the scarcity of the earth. And still, these plants are beautiful. Look closely and you'll see the fine hairs of the sundew glisten like dew at sunrise. The deep red mouths of flytraps, lined with tiny teeth, look like velvet and lace. The pitcher plant, tall and graceful, could be mistaken for an orchid until you peer inside and find the still water of digestion. Beauty here is not separate from danger. It is fused. It draws the gaze, the curiosity, the flight of an insect, and then it closes. Not with cruelty, but with calm certainty. It is just what it is, a green, quiet predator waiting in the sun. And perhaps the strangest part of all is how little we once noticed them. These plants have been here long before us, before our gardens, our stories, our science. They thrived in silence while the world shouted overhead. But now, with eyes trained by wonder, we begin to see them again. Children stare in amazement as a flytrap snaps shut. Scientists sketch and study their enzymes, their patterns, their genes. Artists paint them, poets write of them, storytellers imagine them as alien and magical. But they are not fiction, they are not fantasy, they are real. They are rooted in the same soil that feeds the trees. And they are threatened. As wetlands vanish, so do these ancient lives. Drained swamps, polluted waters, trampled bogs. What was once a hunting ground becomes a memory. And the traps stay open, waiting for something that will never come. It is not a loud extinction. It is a quiet one, a soft erasing of something strange and beautiful. But in learning their stories, we give them voice. We turn the silence of the bog into something remembered. So let us remember them gently. Let us speak of them not just as curiosities, but as teachers. Let the stillness of the sundew remind us to wait. Let the careful calculation of the flytrap remind us to be precise. Let the graceful patience of the pitcher plant remind us that beauty and survival can live in the same shape. These are not monsters. These are miracles. Small, strange miracles that bloom in silence and feed without frenzy. The next time you pass a plant, any plant, wonder what it knows, what it listens to, what signals pass through its body, and then remember the hunters. Remember the green mouths, the sticky kisses, the cups that digest in still water. Remember that life wears many faces, some of them soft, some of them sharp, all of them worthy of awe. In the end, the lesson of these plants is simple. Survival is not loud, it can be quiet, beautiful, slow. A trap built from sunlight and patience, a meal taken without movement, a green leaf with a mind of its own. And somewhere, even now, in a silent swamp under a sleeping sky, one waits, open and ready, not for violence but for balance, for the next soft step, for the next moment of life to drift too close. Inside your body right now are trillions of lives that are not you, but without them you would not be alive. They are not your cells. They do not carry your name, your blood, your DNA. But they walk with you, they eat with you, they even help you think. These ancient strangers have lived inside creatures like you for millions of years. They are small, smaller than you can imagine, tiny enough to pass through the eye of a needle 1,000 times over. And yet, they carry with them memories older than your bones. They are bacteria, fungi, archaea, viruses, microbes that cling gently to your skin, sleep inside your gut, rest quietly in your mouth. You are not just a person, you are a forest, a planet, a host. Long before humans were born, long before trees or fish or even insects, these microbes were here, breathing without lungs, moving without muscles, thinking in a way without brains. When the earth was young and harsh, they were the ones who softened it. They learned to turn sunlight into food. They released oxygen into the sky. They built the air we breathe, cell by invisible cell. The first great transformation of the earth was their work. And even now we carry them with us, not just as passengers but as partners. We are not alone inside ourselves. The gut is where their presence is most profound. Deep in your belly, winding through meters of intestine, live colonies of bacteria that help digest your food, make your vitamins, train your immune system. They are not just sitting there. They are working, learning, adjusting. When you eat, they wake up. When you change your diet, they shift. They are not static. They are alive and ancient, whispering instructions to your body in a chemical language we are only beginning to understand. Some researchers even believe these microbes influence your mood, that the bacteria in your gut may talk to your brain, not with words, but with molecules that flow quietly through your bloodstream like tiny letters. This collection of microbes is called your microbiome, and each person's is different, as unique as a fingerprint, shaped by birth, by touch, by food, by place, even by the animals you live with. A baby born through the birth canal inherits a different set of microbes than one born by surgery. A child raised on a farm carries different companions than one raised in a city apartment. These strangers are shaped by the world, and in return they help shape you. But they are not always kind. Not all microbes are helpful. Some turn harmful when they grow in the wrong places or in the wrong numbers. Some invade when the body is weak. Some bring fever, swelling, disease. These, too, are part of the story, not villains but missteps, imbalances, a reminder that life is delicate and that even cooperation has its risks. But the helpful ones, the ones who stay quietly balanced, outnumber the harmful ones by far. They form a kind of peace treaty with your body. You feed them, you give them shelter, and in return they help you live. And then there are mitochondria, tiny power plants inside your cells. They are not just part of you. They were once free-living bacteria long ago in a time before animals or plants. Somehow, one cell swallowed another, and instead of being digested, they formed an alliance. The swallowed cell stayed, worked, helped. It became mitochondria. And now every breath you take, every heartbeat, every blink of your eyes is powered by that ancient partnership. You are, in part, the result of a merger written in biology so long ago that no human story can trace it fully. These ancient strangers live inside every cell of your body, carrying their own tiny DNA, separate from yours, yet vital to you. Even your skin is covered in microbial life. A rainforest of microscopic organisms lives in every crease and fold. Some protect you from harmful invaders. Some help heal wounds. They shift and change depending on where you are, what you touch, how you live. We used to fear these invisible things. We tried to scrub them away. But now, slowly, science is showing us that we need them, that our health depends on them. That life without them is not life at all, but a quiet collapse. In this way, you are not a single being. You are an ecosystem, a moving forest, a walking coral reef. You are made of human cells, yes, but also of ancient strangers who walked the earth long before your ancestors spoke and who will still be here long after you are gone. And yet they don't ask for recognition. They don't seek attention. They live in your shadows, small and necessary, helping your story unfold in ways you cannot see. To know this is to understand that life is rarely what it seems, that even within you the boundaries between self and other blur softly, that your body is a community, that your survival has always been shared. You are more than your thoughts, more than your skin. You are the sum of a million tiny lives, humming quietly beneath your surface, keeping the silence of ancient things alive. Let's sink further now into this invisible world inside you, a world not made of organs or blood, but of microbes humming quietly through the folds of your body. The gut is their capital city, a winding metropolis lined with villi and mucus rivers where billions of bacteria thrive in balance. When you eat a piece of bread, it is not only you that eats. The starches are broken down, chewed chemically by enzymes, absorbed by cells, but deep in your gut, other mouths are at work. Bacteria ferment fibers, produce short-chain fatty acids, make vitamins your own body cannot craft. They send signals to your immune system, training it like a gentle tutor, reminding it what is friend and what is foe. These bacteria have no mouths, no eyes, no thoughts, and yet they help shape how you feel, how you heal, how you live. One of the most mysterious connections is between the gut and the brain. Scientists call it the gut-brain axis, a bridge of nerves, hormones, and signals that link your thoughts with your digestion. Inside this bridge runs the vagus nerve, long and winding, connecting the belly to the base of your brain. Microbes send messages through it, shaping mood, anxiety, even memory. Some microbes produce neurotransmitters, chemical messengers like serotonin and dopamine, once thought to live only in the mind. But no. Many are born in the gut, crafted by microbes who do not think but still affect thought. It is a strange idea that part of your sadness or calm might come not from your heart, but from the tiny, ancient strangers in your belly. And it doesn't stop there. These microbes also influence inflammation, which can ripple out across the body, into joints, skin, lungs, and yes, even thoughts. When the microbiome is healthy, the body hums in harmony. But when it's disrupted by antibiotics, poor diet, stress, it can fall into imbalance. A once helpful guest may overgrow. A peaceful corner may become hostile. Diseases can rise not from invasion, but from absence. From silence where there was once soft activity. And yet balance can return. The microbiome is resilient. Feed it fibers, colors, variety. Treat it kindly and it will bloom again, like a garden returning in spring. Different cultures have understood this balance for generations. Fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, kefir, miso. These are not just flavors, they are microbial gifts. Preserved bacteria passed from hand to hand, from milk to jar, offering tiny allies with every bite. These foods are ancient partnerships, long before microscopes gave us their names. To eat them is to remember something older than medicine, that life supports life, that what lives inside us also comes from the world around us. Soil, air, food, touch. The boundary between you and everything else is not a wall, it is a filter. And even the air you breathe carries microbes. They drift into your lungs, your nose, your throat. Some stay, some leave. Some teach your immune cells how to behave. On your skin, different patches have different communities. Your forehead is not like your elbow, your fingertips not like your feet. These tiny strangers know your geography better than you do, and somehow they keep the peace. They do not wage war, they balance, they hold space. They shift gently when you move through the world, leaving trails of microbial scent wherever you go. What's more strange is that your body tolerates them. The immune system is trained to destroy invaders, and yet it leaves these microbes alone, not by accident but by choice. It learns not to attack them, it makes room. Scientists call this tolerance, and it may be one of the oldest understandings written into your blood, that not all who enter are enemies, that some are meant to stay. This quiet agreement is what makes life possible, a harmony of the seen and the unseen, a truce older than bones. And when we think about health in this way, the whole idea shifts. Health is not just the absence of illness. It is the presence of balance, of diversity, of microbial voices working together even without language. Your body listens, it adjusts. It protects these guests because it knows it cannot thrive alone. You may think you are a single life, but you are not. You are an orchestra, a shared story, a soft city of cells and strangers working in peace. Even death does not end this relationship. When the body ceases, microbes continue. They break down what was once you, returning nutrients to the earth. The same process that once helped you live now helps you return. This, too, is part of the cycle. These ancient strangers are not just part of life. They are part of what comes after. They do not vanish. They continue drifting through soil, through breath, through water, waiting perhaps to join another body, another life. To understand this is to look at yourself differently, not as a single, solid thing, but as a shifting mosaic, a home for the ancient, a collection of quiet partnerships older than language. These microbes don't speak, they don't write, but they shape your story just the same, with enzymes, with molecules, with presence. They were here before you were born, they will be here when you are gone. And even now they hum softly through your blood as if to say, you are never alone. Now let's pause and breathe and listen to the quiet world inside you, not with ears but with imagination. Picture your body not as a single shape but as a teeming forest of ancient guests, each one older than human memory, each one doing its work without praise. They don't wait for thanks. They don't even know they're helping. And yet they keep you alive. Some were given to you at birth, passed down from your mother's skin, her breath, her milk. Others came later from food, from touch, from soil under your fingernails. They are not a burden. They are your inheritance. We tend to think of the self as a sealed thing, a body with a boundary, but these ancient strangers remind us that life has always been porous, that the edge of your skin is not the edge of you. 1,000 invisible relationships continue beyond what your eyes can see. When you walk into a room, you leave behind traces of your microbiome. When someone hugs you, you share invisible lives, even if just for a moment. Every breath, every bite, every step is part of this invisible weaving. And somehow it works. It doesn't overwhelm you, it holds you up. Think of the mitochondria again, those tiny powerhouses in your cells. Each one an echo of a swallowed bacterium from nearly 2 billion years ago. That merger, strange and silent, changed life forever. Without mitochondria, there would be no animals, no motion, no breath as we know it. This was not conquest. It was union. A shared life that allowed cells to grow more complex, more capable. That one ancient event lives on in you, in your muscles, in your beating heart. You are the result of that ancient agreement, even if you never knew it. There's something humbling in knowing you are never truly alone, that your body is not a fortress but a village, that your health depends not only on what you do but on what you feed and protect inside yourself. When you fast, they fast. When you nourish yourself, you nourish them. Their stability is your own, and when imbalance comes, they often whisper it before symptoms do. A shift in digestion, a sudden ache, a feeling of fog. Sometimes the first warning of illness is not a scream, but a soft microbial shift beneath your awareness. Scientists now explore how changing the microbiome might one day heal what medicine cannot. Could we treat depression with the right bacteria? Could autoimmune diseases ease if balance is restored? Could cancer be slowed, wounds heal faster, minds grow calmer, all by changing the chorus of microbial voices inside us? These are not just dreams. They are being studied now, in labs, in hospitals, in living bodies like yours. And while we don't yet understand the full map, we know this. These tiny strangers matter, deeply. Even language changes when we see ourselves this way. You are not just one I, you are a we, a symphony of selves, a collection of ancient beings wrapped in skin and thought. You are human, yes, but also microbial, cellular, evolutionary. A being shaped by billions of lives that came before you and live within you still. Your breath carries their breath, your movement their fuel, and they, in turn, rely on you to carry them forward into the next hour, the next day. So next time you sit in silence, wondering what moves inside you, remember this gentle truth. You are not a lone being. You are a living archive, a walking story, a soft blend of old and new. Your cells sing with borrowed memory. Your organs hum with quiet help. And through it all, the ancient strangers, those unseen companions, continue their work, unbothered by your worries, unfazed by your thoughts. They do not need your words. They ask only for balance. Let this thought calm you. Let it make you softer. You are not empty when you are alone. You are never truly empty at all. The smallest lives carry you, cradle you, feed your brain, heal your skin, digest your food, teach your cells. And when you sleep tonight, they will continue, ancient, silent, faithful, helping you dream in the language of life itself. In the deepest, darkest corners of our planet, places where no wind stirs and no sunlight has ever touched, there are lives that do not breathe. Not because they are dead, but because they never needed to. These are creatures that thrive in places stripped of the very thing we call life, oxygen. In hot vents beneath the sea, in icy sediments beneath ancient lakes, in deep salt mines buried for millions of years, these beings persist. Quietly, strangely, without lungs, without air. They live on chemicals, on minerals, on the breath of rocks. They are not just surviving, they are flourishing in silence, reminding us that life is not defined by what we need, but by what we adapt to. We think of breathing as essential, air in, air out, oxygen flowing to blood, to organs, to brain. Without it, we panic, we fade. But for some creatures, oxygen is not a gift, it is a poison. For them, the presence of oxygen would be like a fire burning through the very machinery of their cells, so they evolved differently. Their cells learned to find energy in other ways. Instead of oxygen, they use sulfur, or iron, or methane. Some use hydrogen gas. Some break down the molecules in rock itself. Their world is not ours, their life is not loud. It is slow, ancient, and strange. One of the most mysterious of these creatures is Halesphalabus Mephisto asterisk, a tiny worm found nearly 2 miles beneath the Earth's surface, living in water squeezed between cracks of hot rock. It does not breathe. It endures pressure that would crush other animals. It survives heat that would destroy most proteins. And it lives in complete darkness, never once touched by sunlight. It eats bacteria that also do not need oxygen. Together, they form a food chain of the underground, unseen by the world above, untouched by the rules we thought governed all life. Then there are the extremophiles, microbes that thrive in places once thought uninhabitable. At the bottom of the ocean, near hydrothermal vents, they live in boiling water rich in sulfur and metal. Some eat the gases spewing from the earth itself. Others absorb radiation as energy. They do not need plants. They do not need air. They live in an ecosystem born of heat and pressure. Where magma meets water, where black smoke curls up like ink into the sea, these microbes build entire communities. Shrimp, crabs, and tube worms gather around them, feeding not on sunlight, but on the chemistry of the deep. Scientists have found entire lakes of brine on the ocean floor, denser than seawater, rich in salt, deadly to most marine life. And yet on the edges of these lakes, at the borders where normal ocean meets this strange soup, life teems. Microbes cling to the edge, processing salt and sulfur. They are still, invisible, but they are alive in a place that would dissolve almost anything else. It is a reminder that what looks like death from one view may be full of life from another. Even on land, deep underground, in isolated pockets of rock and ice, microbes have been found that have not seen sunlight for millions of years. They sleep, slow and small, eating minerals, dividing once every 100 years, perhaps even slower. Their time is not our time. Their metabolism is not our rhythm, but they live, they persist. They are not broken, just different. They teach us that life does not always pulse. Sometimes it hums, so softly you must close your eyes to hear it. And this raises questions we are only beginning to ask. If life can exist here, without air, without light, without warmth, where else might it exist? Under the frozen crust of Europa, a moon of Jupiter. In the methane lakes of Titan, beneath the dust of Mars. If life does not need what we need, then perhaps life is everywhere, hidden, waiting, breathing not with lungs but with stone, thinking not in thoughts but in chemical pulses across alien oceans. Back on Earth, these strange, breathless creatures help us in ways we did not expect. Some clean up oil spills by eating hydrocarbons. Others purify metals, process waste, or generate electricity in microbial fuel cells. Their talent is not showy. It is chemical, slow, powerful, and without them, many of our most polluted places would remain poisoned. They work in silence, in the dark, in conditions we can barely imagine, and yet they continue. So the next time you take a breath, deep, easy, invisible, remember that breath is not the only way. Somewhere far below or deep beneath the sea, something is living without what you cannot live without. It is not suffering. It is not barely holding on. It is simply alive, in its own way, in its own time, a soft echo of life from a different world, sharing the same planet. Let us descend deeper now, not just into the earth, but into the way these breathless lives make energy. In our world, oxygen acts like a spark. It's what our cells use to burn food into fuel. Without it, our bodies fail within minutes. But for those who evolved outside the cradle of oxygen, energy flows through different channels. Some bacteria perform anaerobic respiration, a process that replaces oxygen with other molecules, nitrate, sulfate, or carbon dioxide. Others ferment sugars the way yeast makes bread rise, pulling just enough energy from each reaction to stay alive. This is not inefficient. It's intentional. Their metabolism is not fast, but it is durable, crafted over billions of years to function in silence, in darkness, in scarcity. Consider the deep-sea vents once more, places where boiling water enriched with metals and gases escapes from cracks in the Earth's crust. Around these vents, microbial communities thrive using a process called chemosynthesis. Unlike photosynthesis, which uses sunlight to build sugars, chemosynthesis relies on chemicals like hydrogen sulfide. These bacteria convert toxic gas into energy, laying the foundation for entire ecosystems. Massive tube worms grow with the help of these microbes, their bodies housing colonies of symbiotic bacteria that feed them from within. No mouth, no stomach, just a living partnership where chemical energy is shared like breath in a forgotten language. Even stranger are the microbes that use iron. These iron-reducing bacteria live in soil and rock, turning rust back into a usable form, feeding off the electrons that flow in the exchange. They sense iron the way we sense heat. They send out tiny filaments, nanowires that reach through soil and stone to touch and transform metal. They don't know they are doing it. They don't plan. But in their smallness, they change entire environments. They write new chemistry into the ground. Another group, the methanogens, thrive in wetlands, cow stomachs, and deep sediments. They produce methane as a byproduct of their metabolism. It's a strange kind of breathing, one that exhales flammable gas instead of carbon dioxide. Methanogens are not exotic outliers. They are ancient. Some of the first forms of life on Earth may have been methanogens. They remind us of a time when the sky was different, when oxygen did not fill the air, when fire could not yet burn. To breathe methane was to be alive. And in salt flats, broad, white, sunlit mirrors where life seems impossible, live halophiles. These salt-loving microbes contain pigments that let them absorb light, not like plants, but in their own strange way. They turn entire ponds pink, orange, or red. They don't need oxygen. They don't need shade. They simply adapt. Their pigments shield them from damage. Their membranes are armored against the salt. They float in brine where other cells would shrivel, and they do so with quiet ease. This flexibility, this deep adaptability is what makes these creatures so enduring. They are not rare, they are simply hidden. Their environments are extreme by human standards, but not to them. We call them extremophiles, but they call these places home. What seems dangerous to us is normal to them. They remind us that hostile is a relative term, that life can find comfort in places we fear, that silence, darkness, or pressure are not the end of biology, they are just different beginnings. There's a lesson in that, a softness hidden in the strangeness. These creatures do not protest the world around them. They do not wish it were different. They shape themselves to the place they are in, and in doing so they make something beautiful. In a world of boiling heat, a community thrives. In a lake of acid, cells divide. In a cavern sealed for millions of years, life pulses like a distant heartbeat. Slowly, persistently, without oxygen, without drama. And when scientists go looking for signs of life on Mars or Europa, they do not search for cities or signals. They look for these signs, chemical fingerprints, metabolic traces, echoes of anaerobic respiration. They search for microbes like the ones here on Earth who never needed air, who never asked for sunlight, who simply began and continued. Because if life can survive in boiling vents and frozen brines here, maybe it is already surviving out there. Not loudly, not visibly, but truly. This isn't just speculation. Samples from ancient rock cores reveal viable microbes sealed in salt crystals for over 250 million years. Not fossils, living cells, frozen in time, sleeping perhaps or simply existing so slowly that their heartbeat is too soft for us to hear. These are not new lives. They are old ones stretching back toward the origin of everything. They are not alien. They are ancestral. They are reminders that life is not new. Life is deep. And when we speak of oxygen, we often speak as though it's universal, but it's not. For much of Earth's history, oxygen was rare, toxic. It wasn't until certain microbes evolved to release it that the air began to change. And even then, it took eons. Oxygen-based life is a newcomer. Anaerobic life is ancient. It came first. It shaped the world long before we could breathe. We are the children of those who could not use air. And in some dark places, those ancestors still whisper through chemical reactions, through silent division, through life that neither needs nor misses breath. Now drift into the quiet knowing that beneath our feet, behind sealed rock and under sleeping oceans, life has been writing its own script without air for billions of years. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't seek recognition. It moves at its own pace, shaped by pressure, by chemistry, by stillness. In a world filled with oxygen breathers like us, it is easy to forget that life does not require what we do. Life, in its oldest form, is simple, deliberate, and deeply strange. And even now, that ancient life is still here, still pulsing in the dark. These creatures that live without oxygen remind us that survival can take many shapes. Some divide once in a decade. Some do not grow but simply remain. Some feed on metal, on gas, on dust. And in their silence they preserve stories older than our sky. Some of the microbes found deep in ice cores may have fallen with snow before humans ever existed. They froze and waited, not for a signal, not for rescue, but just because their kind always has. If thawed carefully, they wake. Slowly. Calmly, as if time never passed. They remember how to live, even after centuries of stillness. And it is not only their existence that matters, it is what they teach us. When we dig deep into the earth or peer into the shadows of distant planets, we are not just looking for proof of life. We are asking, what is life really? Is it complexity? Is it breath? Is it movement? These creatures answer softly, no. Life is persistence. Life is balance. Life is the ability to remain, even when the world seems lifeless. Even when there is no air, no sun, no light. Life still whispers. Many of these breathless beings work together in colonies. They do not live alone, but as communities. One species may create waste that becomes another's food. They chain their metabolisms together, forming webs of mutual survival. This is not cooperation in the way we understand it. There are no meetings, no agreements, but the result is harmony. A shared life built through necessity. A breathless dance between strangers who have never met, but who live and grow because they are near each other. And their world is patient. Time in the deep earth or under ancient seas moves differently. A second can be a day, a year can be a breath. There is no rush, no schedule. A single cell may wait centuries before it divides. A colony may sit unchanged until heat or water returns. These are not the frantic, noisy lives we know. They are slow, folded, ancient. And yet they are alive just the same, not less, only different. In some places, entire rivers flow beneath the earth, invisible to us. And in those rivers, microbes glide with the current, feeding on minerals and shaping the stone around them. In some caves, bacteria eat away at limestone, carving delicate formations with every meal. These creatures are not architects, but still they sculpt. They do not aim, but still they transform. Their touch is chemical, but their legacy is visible in the shapes they leave behind. Life, even unseen, leaves fingerprints. There's something quieting in all of this, a kind of peace in knowing that life is not always urgent, that it doesn't have to be bright or fast or loud to matter, that it can be hidden in brine, sleeping in salt, breathing without air, that it can be old beyond imagination and still gentle, still small, still present. It reminds us that we are not alone in our need to adapt, that others have done it before us, more gracefully, more patiently, and often more successfully. And while we build machines to find these life forms in space, probing Mars, scanning Europa, sending signals into the stars, we must remember that Earth still holds secrets of its own. We have not finished exploring here. Beneath every continent, beneath every ocean trench, there may be new breathless lives waiting to be seen. They are not waiting for us, but if we look, we may find them. And in finding them, we may better understand ourselves. Because in the end, the breathless creatures do not challenge the idea of life. They expand it. They remind us that life is not a single path. It is a field of possibilities, that what seems impossible may simply be unfamiliar. That silence can be full. That stillness can be strong. And that air, which we see as essential, is only one of many ways to exist. So the next time you take a deep breath, close your eyes and think of them, not as alien, not as other, but as part of the same story. A story written in darkness, carved in stone, and whispered in a language too old for words. They do not breathe, but they live. And in that quiet truth lies one of the deepest miracles of all. Somewhere in a forest, under a fallen log or across a damp, mossy rock, something yellow and formless stretches slowly toward food. It has no eyes, no mouth, no bones, and no brain. And yet it knows exactly where it's going. This creature is called slime mold. It looks like spilled paint or melting jelly. But inside its shifting body, something remarkable is happening. It is solving problems, finding patterns, remembering paths. It is, in a strange and gentle way, thinking. Not the way we think, not in language or symbols, but in flow and motion, in soft choices that spread like quiet ripples through its body. This is a mind without a brain, a soft intelligence we are only just beginning to understand. We often think of intelligence as something that lives inside a skull. Neurons, connections, sparks of memory and thought, but slime molds challenge this. They have no neurons, no central system at all. Their body is one big cell stretched out like a lacework of veins flowing with cytoplasm, and yet they can solve mazes. Scientists have watched them find the shortest path through a puzzle, avoiding dead ends and remembering the best route. Not once, but again and again. If you remove the food, they retreat. If you put it back, they return. They make decisions. They hold memories, but there is no brain to store them. How can this be? The answer is still unfolding, but one idea is that the slime mold stores information in its shape. When it flows down a certain path, its body thins in other directions. That change in structure acts like a memory, a gentle reminder of where it's been, what it has found, what it has ignored. Its intelligence is not fixed in a location but spread across its body. A distributed mind, a thinking body, a living, moving memory made of nothing but softness and slow motion. And slime molds are not alone. Trees communicate through their roots and the fungal networks below them, sharing water, nutrients, even warnings of danger. A forest can behave like a brain, where signals travel not by wire but by chemistry and touch. Octopuses carry neurons not just in their head but throughout their arms. Each arm can act semi-independently, exploring, reacting, deciding. And jellyfish, too, pulse and swim and respond without a brain, guided by nets of nerves that encircle their bodies like invisible thought. Even the humble starfish has no central brain. Its nervous system runs through each arm, coordinating movement and sensing food through touch. It lives by feel. It navigates without seeing, without planning, yet always in tune with its watery world. These are minds scattered through tissue, distributed like wind in tall grass, there but never in one place. And they teach us something unexpected, that thinking does not have to be hard or fast or centered. It can be gentle, slow, spread out like mist. Back to the slime mold. Scientists once built a miniature map of Tokyo's subway system using oats as food sources placed where major stations would be. The slime mold connected them with efficient, low-resistance pathways, almost identical to the human-designed rail lines. But the slime mold had no blueprint, no map, no plan. It simply flowed, explored, adapted. It tried, failed, retried, and finally built something that mirrored one of the most complex transit systems in the world. Not because it was smart like us, but because it was smart like itself. And what's perhaps most poetic is that this thinking doesn't stop when you cut it apart. If you divide a slime mold into pieces, each part continues its journey, its search, its learning. Later, if the parts are brought back together, they share what they've learned, recombining into a whole that now knows more than it did before. It is memory through merging, knowledge through connection, not digital, not verbal, just soft learning carried in the shape and flow of life. This kind of intelligence is called embodied cognition, the idea that thinking happens not just in brains but in bodies, that motion and sensing and being are part of thought. Slime molds do not think about mazes. They are the maze. Their shape becomes the solution. Their motion becomes the answer. And in that, they remind us that thought does not have to be fast or conscious to be real. Sometimes, it's just the body responding wisely to the world. And perhaps in watching them, we begin to question what a mind really is. Must it be fast? Must it be verbal? Or can it be slow, spread out, and quiet? Can it glow softly in the veins of a jelly, or ripple through the arms of a starfish, or flow like syrup over mossy stones? The slime mold says yes, not with words but with movement, with patience, with problem-solving that looks like dreaming. So next time you think of intelligence, remember the yellow shape winding through a forest floor. Remember the brainless mind that solves without seeing, decides without doubt, and remembers without a name. It does not need a skull. It does not need speed. It only needs the space to stretch, the time to try, and the stillness to listen to the world. Let's move now through the forests and oceans, deserts and tide pools, looking not for brains but for behavior. Because even without neurons, life finds ways to think. There's a sponge sitting on a coral reef, its body full of holes, filtering water day and night. It has no brain, no nerve cells, no muscles. And yet it knows how to grow, how to respond to light, how to change its shape when particles in the water shift. It can close its pores when disturbed and reopen when the water calms. Its behavior is slow, but it is there. It knows in its own way how to be alive. And then there is the bristlecone pine, a tree that lives for thousands of years in high, dry mountain winds. It does not move. It does not think in the human sense, but it senses. Its roots know the shape of the soil. Its cells feel the coming of winter. It adjusts the flow of water through its xylem vessels, slows its metabolism, conserves energy. Year after year, it reads the sun and stores memory in the rings of its wood. A dry year, a wet year, a fire, a storm. It does not remember in thoughts, but in shape, in thickness, in stillness. Its body is asterisk its story. In the sea, a jellyfish drifts. It has no brain, just a diffuse nerve net. But it pulses rhythmically, stings when touched, orients itself by the pull of the tide. Some jellyfish migrate long distances. Some glow in the dark. Some respond to prey with lightning-fast reflexes, all without a single central thought. They are tuned to the ocean's whisper. Their movement is not random, it is choice, built into their body like music into strings. And the more we study these brainless beings, the more we see patterns, simple decisions made without centralized thought. Coral polyps build reefs in response to flow and light. Algae swim toward brightness using a simple eye spot. Flatworms regenerate from fragments, somehow knowing how to rebuild a head, a tail, a body. The knowledge is not in their minds, it is in their molecules, their tissues, their form. Biology itself becomes the thinker. Even bacteria, long thought to be too simple to exhibit behavior, show signs of coordination. They form colonies, communicate with chemical signals, and change gene expression based on the density of their neighbors. This is called quorum sensing, a way to vote, to count, to decide when to act. When enough of them agree, they release toxins, form biofilms, or move as one. No brain, no nerves, just collective sensing. Just logic written in molecules carried like whispers through water. And the most striking part, these decisions can be flexible. Slime molds, for example, can change their preferences. When offered two food sources, one rich but far, the other close but poor, they will choose the one that best balances effort and reward. This is the essence of strategy, cost-benefit analysis, a calculation made not in a brain but in motion. The slime mold doesn't sit still and consider. It spreads, senses, retracts. It learns by doing, and that learning becomes behavior. Scientists have even trained slime molds. By repeatedly placing food near a source of unpleasant stimuli, like salt, they can encourage the mold to avoid that spot in the future, even when food is present. This is a kind of conditioning, a primitive memory built from experience. Again, no brain, just history written into its shape, the trail of what was once true. So what does all this tell us? That minds are not only inside skulls, that thinking is not owned by the fast or the loud. Intelligence may be a spectrum, not a line. It may live in roots, in veins, in colonies, in flow. We humans solve problems with neurons and electricity, but other lives solve problems too, with slime, with branches, with light. Their intelligence is quiet but not absent. And in some ways it is more ancient than ours. Before brains evolved, bodies already knew how to respond, to bend, to choose. Evolution built problem-solving into muscle and cell long before it built it into thought. Even in us, some decisions happen in the body before they reach the brain. The gut contracts, the skin shivers, the heart races, reflexes, intuition, echoes of that older knowing. These creatures show us that the world is full of quiet minds. That thought does not always mean words or pictures. It can mean direction, change, adaptation. Life, when it moves with purpose, even slow, even small, is telling a story. A soft form of knowing, a soft form of choosing. So the next time you walk past moss or watch a jellyfish drift or see a tree lean toward the sun, imagine what it knows. Imagine the shape of its intelligence, the way it remembers, not in names or numbers, but in growth and grace. It does not speak. It does not shout, but it knows where it is. And slowly, patiently, it chooses how to be. Now let's breathe slowly and turn inward to the question that quietly echoes through every corner of this strange story. What is a mind, really? Must it think in words? Must it sit inside a head humming with neurons and sparks? Or can a mind stretch, drift, and reform? Can it be a body? Can it be a movement? The slime mold that remembers a path with its shape is not pretending to think. It is asterisk thinking in a form we barely recognize, a thinking so soft it doesn't need speed, a knowing so ancient it forgets nothing. It reminds us that intelligence doesn't need rules, it needs only attention and time. All around us, life is choosing without noise, choosing how to grow, how to bend, how to reach. A sunflower turns toward the sun. Its cells shift water, its stem curves, its leaves align. There's no brain behind that gesture, but there is a decision, a pattern, a purpose. Roots find cracks in concrete. Fungi build webs beneath the forest, stretching to where the nutrients lie. The networks they weave rival the complexity of city maps. And when one part of the network is damaged, another part compensates. This is not reaction, it's regulation. It's something like care. Even single-celled organisms like paramecia show signs of awareness. They swim toward food, away from heat, adjust their behavior based on past encounters. They don't plan, but they don't stumble blindly either. Their movement is structured, tuned, built from feedback and learning at the smallest scale. Their entire being is a sensor, a body that listens with every part of itself. It's a reminder that cognition doesn't have to live in a brain. It can live in the act of adapting. And then there is memory, the soft thread that runs through all minds. We usually imagine memory as something stored in the brain. But what if memory can also live in shape, in chemistry, in scars and stretches and trails left behind? Slime molds do not remember with neurons, but with flow. Plants remember drought and bloom early the next year. Coral reefs remember temperature spikes and adapt. Trees pass messages through seeds, preparing the next generation for the world as it is, not as it was. Memory is more than storage. It is a continuation, a way life tells itself what worked. The more we look, the more we find thinking in places we once saw as blank. And the more we find, the more we are asked to rethink ourselves. Are we really so separate? Is our kind of mind the only one that counts? Or have we simply been speaking a language too loud to hear others? When we say a tree is not smart or a jellyfish is simple, we are not measuring them. We are measuring our own tools. But perhaps we are learning now to listen differently. To look not for voices, but for choices. Not for plans, but for patterns. What if a mind is any system that gathers information and responds meaningfully? Then the roots of a tree sensing moisture is a kind of thought. Then the spread of mycelium reaching toward nutrients is a kind of decision. Then the starfish regrowing an arm, guided by its distributed nerve system, is not just healing, it's remembering itself. Not with thoughts, but with form. And within us, echoes of this older, softer intelligence remain. The gut feels before the brain processes. The heart speeds up without a word. Reflexes fire before understanding dawns. We think with our heads, but perhaps we think with our whole being, with our posture, with our temperature, with every silent signal flowing through our body. The old mind and the new mind still talking, still listening to each other. So maybe it's time we expand our definition. Let the word mind stretch and soften like the slime mold reaching toward oats. Let it bend like a plant toward light. Let it divide and reform like the arms of an octopus. Let it include trees and fungi and even the memory of a river's path carved through stone. Intelligence is not just in speed or complexity. It's in persistence, in adaptability, in connection. The mind, like life, is not one shape. It is many. And some of its gentlest forms don't speak. They don't move quickly, but they are still here. So next time you see moss clinging to a wall, or a jellyfish drifting without hurry, or a lichen spreading over stone, do not look away. You may be witnessing a mind at rest, a mind solving a problem slowly, a mind that doesn't need to speak to be wise. And in that silence, in that patience, in that scattered way of knowing, you may find something even deeper than thought. You may find understanding. Beneath the frost, beneath the silence of winter or the dust of centuries, something waits. It does not breathe. It does not move. It does not decay. But it is not dead. It is sleeping deeply, quietly, for as long as it must. This is life in suspension. Life that pauses its story mid-sentence and curls into stillness, waiting for the right moment to begin again. Seeds buried for thousands of years, tiny worms frozen in Arctic ice, microbes sealed in amber or salt, each one carrying a memory, a blueprint, a quiet readiness. These are the sleepers of the natural world, the ones who remind us that death sometimes is not the end. It is a door that does not lock. Take the seed of a lotus, uncovered from an ancient lakebed in China. It had rested there for more than 1,000 years, preserved in the cool mud of a long-vanished world. Scientists planted it and it sprouted. Soft green leaves emerged from something that had not seen the sun since before the first printing press, before the first gunpowder spark. Inside that seed, time had folded in on itself. The embryo had not died. It had simply slowed. Its cells waited, its instructions held tight, like a whispered song wrapped in silence. This is dormancy, a kind of biological patience. Many plants use it to survive drought, fire, or freezing cold. Their seeds dry out, their shells harden, and deep inside, a sliver of life rests untouched. Years may pass, centuries even, and then one day warmth comes, rain falls. The seed wakes slowly at first, testing the world. If the signs are right, it grows. If not, it waits again. Life here is not fragile, it is cautious. It does not rush back, it listens. But plants are not the only ones who sleep like this. In Siberia, scientists unearthed microscopic worms called nematodes from layers of permafrost over 40,000 years old. They thawed the worms gently and they moved. They stirred. Their tiny bodies twitched back into life. These creatures had been frozen through the Ice Age, through the rise of civilizations, through the invention of writing and wheels and roads. And yet when the ice melted, they remembered how to live. What woke them wasn't magic. It was warmth, moisture, the touch of time beginning again. Other creatures use a similar trick. The wood frog of North America freezes solid during winter. Its heart stops. Its blood turns to ice. Its cells fill with glucose, a kind of natural antifreeze. For months it lies still beneath the snow, more ice than animal. But when spring comes, it thaws. Its heart beats again. It blinks. It hops. It remembers where it left off as if nothing happened. It is not resurrection. It is resilience, a trust in the return of warmth. And then there are the tardigrades, the tiny eight-legged creatures sometimes called water bears. They can dry out completely, curling into a state called cryptobiosis. In this state, they lose almost all the water in their bodies. Their metabolism drops to near zero. They do not eat. They do not grow. They simply wait. Scientists have revived tardigrades after decades in this state. They have survived the vacuum of space, intense radiation, boiling and freezing. Life in them becomes a whisper, but it never disappears. What connects all these creatures is a kind of memory that lives deeper than thought, a cellular memory, a trust in the world's return. These are lives tuned not to moments but to cycles, to seasons, to deep time. They do not fear stillness. They embrace it, because they know in ways we are only beginning to understand that stillness is not the opposite of life. It is part of it. In lakes that dry up completely in summer, tiny creatures called rotifers and fairy shrimp lay eggs that survive in the cracked mud. When the rains return, those eggs hatch. The pond fills with life again, and it is not a new life. It is a continuation, a story paused, not erased. The landscape seems dead, but it is only waiting. The first raindrop is a signal and the desert blooms. And even in humans there are echoes of this. Not in full dormancy, perhaps, but in our cells' ability to wait. Embryos can pause development under certain conditions. Stem cells can lie dormant in the body for years before activating to repair injury. Our own bodies carry this knowledge, this understanding that life can be slow, that not all beginnings are fast, that not all survival is motion. So next time you stand in a field of dried grass or stare at the cracked surface of a desert lake, remember, what looks lifeless may be full of sleeping time. Beneath the dust, beneath the frost, something is waiting, not dead, just dreaming. And when the moment comes, when warmth returns and the winds shift, it will rise again, not as something new, but as something remembered. Let's follow this quiet thread further now, not with urgency, but with awe as we explore how life hides inside time itself. Deep inside caves where no light has ever entered, researchers discovered spores of bacteria resting in salt crystals formed over 250 million years ago. The earth above them had changed completely. Mountains rose and fell, continents drifted, species came and vanished. And yet, inside that tiny speck of salt, life had waited. When the crystal was cracked open and moistened, the bacteria stirred and began to grow. They were not fossils. They were not remnants. They were survivors of deep time, alive and unchanged, like a breath exhaled and held for an entire age. This kind of stillness challenges how we think of death. We often define life by motion, by activity, by breath. But these creatures teach us that life can pause completely and still be whole. It can stop moving and yet remain alive, like a candle with its flame cupped against the wind, hidden but never gone. Dormancy is not absence. It is presence in disguise. In the deserts of Africa and Australia, certain plants like the resurrection fern or the rose of Jericho seem to die completely during drought. Their leaves shrivel. Their stems curl. They become brittle, gray, crumpled like forgotten paper. But then with the first drop of water they unfurl. Green returns. Softness returns. They do not grow from seed, they awaken. Their cells protected by sugars and proteins that hold their shape through the dry heat, like scaffolding for a dream not yet finished. Even in the ocean, seeds of dormancy bloom. Some plankton form resting stages, tiny cysts that fall to the seafloor when conditions grow harsh. Buried beneath layers of sediment, they can remain unchanged for decades or centuries. Then when currents shift and nutrients rise, they awaken. Their tiny bodies rejoin the sunlit sea. The cycle begins anew. It is not a resurrection with music and thunder. It is a return so gentle it almost seems like memory. In permafrost, ancient viruses have been found locked in ice for tens of thousands of years. When thawed carefully, they infect cells again. This discovery is both fascinating and unsettling. It reminds us that viruses, too, are part of this quiet waiting. They have no metabolism of their own. They cannot move or breathe or sense, but they can endure. Like keys waiting for the right lock, they persist until the right cell appears. And then there are spores, the ultimate expression of life in suspension. Fungi release them by the billions. Bacteria form them as last defenses. These tiny capsules are armored against heat, radiation, pressure, and time. Some have been recovered from ancient tombs, from bees sealed in amber from the crevices of spacecraft. They are travelers through time, carrying instructions across centuries in packages smaller than a grain of sand. A spore is not life itself, but a promise of life, a folded map, a seed of breath. Even tardigrades, the water bears, have taken this further. When completely desiccated, they enter a ton state, a dried, shrunken form with their metabolism nearly stopped. In this form, they are almost undetectable, but when touched by water, even after decades, they begin again. Their cells remember how to restart. Their enzymes unfold. Their legs twitch. They resume the path that was paused. They are not reborn. They are simply continued. This idea of continuing instead of starting over is what makes these stories so quietly powerful. Because in a world obsessed with newness, with fast beginnings and constant movement, these lives show us another rhythm, a softer rhythm, a rhythm of patience, of return, of trust in the world's ability to change and cycle. They do not fear stopping because they know how to begin again. And within human science, we've begun to mimic this. Cryopreservation, freezing cells, embryos, tissues, aims to pause life and resume it later. Organ transplants depend on slowing decay. Stem cells are kept dormant until needed. Even astronauts on long voyages may one day sleep deeply, like seeds waiting for spring. We are learning slowly to speak the same language, the language of pause, of protection, of reawakening. But it is not a language of control. It is a language of humility. These creatures and cells and spores remind us that survival is not about constant action. It is about knowing when to rest, when to seal oneself against the storm, when to wait not out of weakness but out of wisdom. Life, in its deepest truth, is not a fire that must always burn bright. Sometimes it is a coal tucked safely in the dark, waiting for the right breath to rise again. So when you feel paused, when your own life seems stalled or still, remember this. You are part of a planet that knows how to wait. You are part of a story filled with sleepers, with waiters, with dreamers curled in shells and seeds and stones. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply in the middle of a longer rhythm, a rhythm that has always known how to begin again. Now let us look toward the quiet moments when life chooses to begin again. Not with noise, not with hurry, but with a slow unfolding that speaks in the language of trust. The world is full of these awakenings. They happen in places we overlook, in dried-out riverbeds, in the cracked bark of ancient trees, in the warmth that returns after a long frost. They do not announce themselves. They arrive like the morning light, unnoticed at first, then everywhere. And this is the heart of life that wakes up after death. Not the spectacular return, but the gentle continuation. In Antarctica, beneath frozen lakes sealed with clear ice, algae wait through long months of darkness. When the sun finally returns and the surface thins, they rise again, blooming green and gold under the pale light. They photosynthesize, they divide, they return to the rhythms they once knew. Nothing dramatic has changed, only the timing, only the temperature, but that is enough. These lives are tuned to patience. They measure time in seasons, in centuries, in cycles too large for human clocks. We tend to think of death as a line we cannot cross again. But in nature, the line is sometimes a circle. Insects that hatch from eggs left behind by mothers who never saw the spring. Trees that regrow from roots after being cut down. Fireweed that blossoms after wildfires, its seeds lying dormant in soil for years, waiting for heat and ash. These are not miracles. They are designs older than speech. Proof that life is a pattern, and some of its threads only shine after the burn. There are even stories of seeds found in pyramids, tucked into tombs thousands of years old, that germinate when planted today. The grains were offered to the dead, but they were not dead themselves. They carried life through centuries of stillness. That is the quiet power of dormancy. It is a refusal to end, not in defiance but in understanding. That endings are often pauses. That silence is often preparation. That rest is not surrender, it is strategy. Some creatures have made this their entire way of life. Brine shrimp, often called sea monkeys, lay eggs that survive extreme dryness. These cysts can be sent through the mail, stored for years, activated with water. Within hours they hatch and begin swimming. The desert rain frog lies buried beneath the sand for months, waiting for rare rainfall. When the skis finally open, it emerges, calls out, and lays its eggs, all in just a few days before returning to rest again. These are lives built not on constant presence, but on careful timing, on showing up exactly when the world is ready. Even in coral reefs, some species of coral release their eggs and sperm all at once during a single night of the year, cued by the moon, the tide, the warmth of the water. The rest of the time they wait, they build, they breathe. But the spark of creation comes only when all things align. It is a kind of trust in the pattern of the planet, a faith in recurrence. And perhaps this is what these lives ask us to remember, that it is okay to stop, that it is okay to rest, that we do not need to bloom all the time to be real or visible or worthy, that there are parts of life that move beneath the surface unseen but alive. A seed in dry ground is not failing. A creature in stillness is not lost. They are storing what they need. They are listening for the right moment. In the depths of space, scientists wonder if life might lie dormant on other worlds. On Mars, where water once flowed. On Europa, beneath the frozen crust. In meteorites that drifted for eons, carrying amino acids, the building blocks of life. If life can sleep through radiation, cold, and time itself, then it may already be out there, waiting not for discovery but for conditions, for warmth, for touch, for the beginning of a new cycle. And here on Earth, the lesson comes quietly, in the moss that greens again after a rain, in the seed that cracks open after 1,000 dry days, in the frog that freezes and thaws, in the microbial cell that stirs beneath a glacier. These are not stories of return from death. They are stories of never truly leaving, of holding life like a flame in a glass box, waiting for the wind to come back. So the next time you find yourself paused, quiet, unsure, think of these beings, think of their calm, their patience, their trust in time. You do not need to hurry, you do not need to always bloom. There is wisdom in rest, in stillness, in becoming small and silent so you can one day rise again. Life does not always shout. Sometimes it simply waits. And then, when the moment is right, it remembers how to grow. In the stillness of early morning, before the wind rises and the forest stirs, a beetle crawls over the edge of a leaf. Its shell shines in the light, hard, smooth, almost metallic. This is no simple covering. This is its skeleton, not hidden inside but worn proudly on the outside like armor. All around us, in the hush of grass and bark and soil, are creatures whose bones are not buried within but carried above. Insects, spiders, crabs, centipedes, all of them wrapped in exoskeletons, silent suits of protection and precision. They do not grow from the inside out. They build their strength outward. And in this reversal lies one of the strangest and most beautiful adaptations in the natural world. We are used to thinking of bones as internal. Our ribs, our spine, our skull, they hold us up, hidden beneath skin and muscle. But for these creatures, the order is different. Their skeleton is their surface, their touch, their defense, their boundary. It does not just support them, it defines them. The curve of a beetle's back, the spiny legs of a crab, the joints of an ant, they are all expressions of this outer framework, a kind of living sculpture that grows not by stretching but by shedding. Because exoskeletons do not stretch, they are rigid, unyielding. So when these creatures grow, they must leave their old shell behind. A grasshopper molts, a spider splits at the seams. A cicada emerges from its old skin, trembling and soft, then hardens in the air. It is a vulnerable moment, a pause between strength and fragility. For a brief time they are unarmored, pale, new, tender. And then the new skeleton hardens and the world resumes. Growth here is not constant, it is rhythmic. A step, a pause, a breath, a new shell. This process is called ectasis, and it is not just mechanical. It is biological choreography. Hormones surge, pressure builds, the old skin cracks. The creature pulls itself free, sometimes upside down, sometimes hanging by threads. What emerges is not just bigger, it is reshaped. The legs are longer, the wings broader. The exoskeleton is not just a shell, it is a suit that must be replaced each time the body outgrows its limits. and every time the creature risks everything. One wrong movement, one tear, and it may not survive, but still they molt, again and again. Crabs do it in the sea. As their body swells, they absorb water to crack the old shell. They wriggle out and hide in the rocks until the new one hardens. Some will even eat their old exoskeleton, reclaiming the minerals for reuse. Nothing is wasted. Even armor becomes nourishment. Nature here is not just efficient, it is elegant. And this outer skeleton is not just protection, it is perception. Tiny hairs on the surface detect touch, sound, heat. Compound eyes sit atop it, seeing the world in mosaics of light. Antennae twitch, feeling the air. The exoskeleton is not dead. It is not a shield. It is alive with sense. It allows movement, defends against injury, helps retain moisture, and keeps shape. Without it, the creature would collapse. It is skin, bone, and clothing all at once. And what's more, it is often beautiful. Think of the iridescent shimmer of a beetle's back, the transparent lace of a dragonfly's wings, the detailed lines of a butterfly's chrysalis. These are not just coverings, they are expressions. Some exoskeletons glow, some mimic leaves or bark or wasps, some dazzle with color, others disappear into shadow. The outer skeleton is not only function, it is form, a language written in shape and texture and light. But perhaps the most haunting part is how this beauty must be left behind. Each time a creature molts, it leaves its old body behind like a ghost. In forests and fields and ocean floors, these cast-off shells lie still, perfect replicas, empty and hollow. A cicada husk clings to bark, split down the back. A spider's old skin floats in the corner of a web. A crab shell rests on the sand like a memory. These are not deaths. They are renewals, markers of growth, a trail of echoes. To wear your skeleton on the outside is to live visibly. Every crack, every change is part of the surface. There is no hiding it, and that in itself is a kind of honesty. These creatures do not fear change. They embody it. They survive by it. The exoskeleton is not just armor, it is a story, a record of where the body has been and a signal of where it must go next. So next time you find a beetle crawling beneath a stone or a dragonfly resting on a reed, look closer. You are not just seeing an insect. You are seeing a body shaped by its boundaries, a creature that carries its strength where others hide it, a being that grows by letting go, that becomes new by leaving its old self behind. And in that gentle exchange, it tells a story older than bones, a story of becoming. Now drift deeper into the lives of these outer bone creatures, and you'll begin to see how their skeletons shape not only their bodies but their worlds. Insects build with them. Spiders weave and anchor from them. Crabs dig, ants tunnel, beetles burrow, all made possible by the rigid, intricate scaffolding that coats their every limb. The exoskeleton is more than a shell, it's a tool set, a toolbox, a library of movement. Each joint bends with purpose, each segment designed for its own rhythm. There is no excess. Every ridge and curve serves function and finesse. But there's a hidden cost to wearing armor. As strong as it is, it limits growth. It makes movement heavy. It forces the creature to shed its entire body to become slightly larger. Inside the chrysalis, a caterpillar turns to liquid, breaking itself down entirely, rearranging its cells to become a butterfly. It is a total transformation. The exoskeleton is both cocoon and cage, until the right moment, until the body is ready to rewrite itself. When the butterfly emerges, its wings are soft, curled, wet. It cannot fly, it must wait. Air must fill the veins, light must touch it. Then with a shiver it lifts, not reborn but remade. And this need to molt, to grow by leaving behind, touches every creature with an exoskeleton. Even the tiny ones, the mites, the fleas, the springtails, go through stages of change. They do not grow gradually, they leap forward in steps. Instar by instar, shell by shell, each molt a doorway, each shell a chapter. There is no halfway. They cannot stretch the old shell, they must leave it. And that is perhaps the most delicate truth. In order to become, they must risk everything. For a moment during molting, they are helpless, soft, vulnerable. The world is dangerous then. Predators sense the change. A spider fresh from its old skin must hide in the shadow until its new body hardens. A crab must tuck itself under rock, breathing slow, knowing that a single misstep could mean the end. But they do it anyway. Not because it is safe, but because it is necessary. To live is to grow, and to grow is to change. Even the hard shell itself is not uniform. In some insects, it's divided into plates connected by softer membranes, allowing flexibility. In others, it's fused like a knight's armor. Each species adapts its armor to its life. Beetles with shields for digging, wasps with sleek shells for flight, mantises with claws for catching. The exoskeleton doesn't just protect, it empowers. It becomes the tool for the task. The surface becomes the purpose. And there is subtle intelligence built into it. Some exoskeletons change color with humidity, reflecting changes in the air. Some have layers that reflect light in specific wavelengths, creating iridescence without pigment. These are not random decorations. They are strategies, signals, camouflage, armor, communication. A jewel beetle glinting green in the sun is not just beautiful, it is blending into the leaves. A butterfly's wings shimmer not because they're painted, but because their scales bend light. The exoskeleton plays with the world around it, not just resisting it, but shaping how it is seen. Inside these hard bodies, the organs are suspended in fluid. There is no skeleton to hold up the muscles, they attach to the inside of the shell. The shell is both boundary and base. Without it, the body would collapse. This inversion changes everything. It affects how the creature breathes, how it moves, how it rests. Insects breathe through spiracles, tiny holes in their sides connected to tubes called tracheae that bring air directly to their tissues. There are no lungs, no diaphragm, just quiet, efficient diffusion. The armor does not suffocate them. It supports their every breath. And yet, for all their strength, exoskeletons have limits. They make creatures small. Most exoskeleton-bearing animals cannot grow too large without losing mobility. On land, gravity makes a heavy shell a burden. In the sea, where buoyancy supports weight, crabs and lobsters can grow bigger, but even they must stop at a point. The shell that gives shape also gives boundary. Growth must be timed, balanced, wise. And that is what these creatures do. They balance risk and reward, softness and armor, stillness and chain. In their world, the cast-off shell is not garbage. It becomes part of the soil. It feeds the fungi, nourishes the microbes. In ecosystems, these old exoskeletons return to the cycle. Calcium, chitin, proteins, all folded back into the earth. A cicada's shell cracks open and clings to the bark like a shadow of what was, then crumbles into dust. Nothing is wasted, not even armor. And this teaches us something strange and soft, that even the hardest things must break for life to move forward. That strength is not always in staying the same, but in shedding what no longer fits. The creatures that molt, that leave their skeletons behind, are not fragile. They are brave. Their growth is not hidden. It is marked by the ghost of what they once were, left behind in plain sight. So the next time you find an empty shell on a trail or a shimmer of insect skin clinging to a leaf, do not think of loss. Think of transformation. That shell once held a life, and that life moved on. Stronger, softer, more complete. It didn't die. It didn't fail. It simply outgrew its old shape. And in that gentle act, it taught us the oldest lesson of all, that becoming new means leaving something behind. Now come quietly into the final chambers of this story, where the softest truths rest inside the hardest forms. The creatures who wear their skeletons on the outside move through the world with a kind of visible honesty, every step, every change written on the surface of their skin. They do not hide their growth. They leave it behind in forests, rivers, tide pools, in husks, in shells, in curled, empty forms clinging to stone or sand. These are not remnants of failure. They are echoes of courage. Each one marks the moment when a creature dared to outgrow itself. And that bravery is woven not only into their biology but into their silence. When a cicada sheds its skin, there is no sound, no celebration, just a slow split, a wriggle, a pause, and then flight. The shell remains, gripping bark like a memory, while the new body takes to the air. This is how they change. Not by bursting out, but by emerging carefully, carrying within them the shape of what they were and the space of what they are becoming. Even death among these creatures does not erase the exoskeleton. Long after the insect or crab is gone, the shell may remain. Empty but whole, fossilized in amber, preserved in ice, Trapped in rock, the exoskeleton keeps a record. A beetle from 100 million years ago may still bear the ridges and curves of its armor. A trilobite pressed in shale still shows every crease in its outer body. These are not just fossils, they are preserved choices, frozen evolutions. Evidence of how life once solved a problem with form. And these forms, so many of them, have inspired us. Human armor mimics beetle shells. Drones echo the flight of insects. Micro-engineered surfaces copy the waterproof texture of butterfly wings. We look to these creatures not just for wonder but for wisdom. Their biology is not outdated. It is refined, tested by time, hardened not only by need but by beauty. In the ocean, crabs shed and regrow claws. In the forest, cicadas rise in synchronized cycles, their molted skins carpeting trees like golden paper. In deserts, beetles with waxy shells collect water from fog. Each one has turned its surface into a strategy, not only to protect but to survive, to sense, to thrive. Their skeletons are shields but also instruments. They play light, they read touch, they hold warmth or reflect it. The exoskeleton is not passive, it is language. And what they teach us quietly is this: boundaries can be beautiful, limits can be alive. A hard edge is not always an end, it can be a beginning. The spider grows not despite its shell, but because of it. The grasshopper leaps because of the force stored in its chitin legs. The ant carries 10 times its weight because its armor distributes force. Strength here is not just about defense, it's about precision, structure, design. Strength at its finest is balance. And when we consider what it means to grow to truly change, we may find ourselves closer to these creatures than we thought. How often do we outgrow things? Ideas, identities, roles, skins that once fit and now do not. We molt too in our way. We shed beliefs. We leave behind habits. We crack open the shell of who we were and step into the unknown of who we might become. Sometimes it is uncomfortable. Sometimes it is terrifying. But always it is necessary. The outer skeleton is a reminder that growth is not always invisible, that sometimes the most profound changes are the ones we can see, left behind like markers of passage, like rings in trees, like scars, like wings still drying in the light. These creatures do not fear the exposure of transformation. They wear it, they live in it, and so can we. So when you find a dragonfly wing in the grass, a crab's empty shell beneath the tide, or the crisp body of a beetle on a windowsill, hold it gently. Look closely. You are holding more than a form, you are holding a phase, a chapter, a moment of becoming. The creature is gone, yes, but what it left behind still whispers, I was here, I grew, I changed, and I survived that change. That is the story of the skeletons that wear their skin on the outside. It is not only a tale of protection but of evolution, not only a tale of defense but of trust. Trust that the old form can be left behind. Trust that the new one will harden. Trust that what comes next will carry us further than what we once were. It is a soft story, wrapped in armor. A reminder that every shell we leave behind is proof that we lived. Far beneath the ground, past the reach of roots and rain, there are creatures that have never seen the sun. In silent caves and under the ocean floor, they move through total darkness. No dawn has touched their skin. No shadow has ever passed over their bodies. And yet they live, they feed, they mate, they sense. These are the eyeless watchers of the deep, fish without pupils, insects without sight, salamanders with skin stretched where eyes used to be. And in their darkness they have found another way to see. Not with light, but with air, with touch, with movement, with vibration. Their vision is not gone, it has only changed. In the caves of Mexico swims the blind cavefish, a relative of the surface-dwelling tetra. Above ground, its cousins have bright eyes and silver bodies, but underground the cavefish has changed. Over generations, its eyes have withered. The sockets remain, but the organs are sealed shut with skin. Its pigment has faded, but its body has sharpened in other ways. Its senses shifts in the water with extreme precision. The flow of a current, the flick of a tail, the curve of a rock. It maps its world with motion. It reads the river by feel. And it is not alone. In the dark limestone caves of Europe, the ohm, a pale, slender salamander, glides through black water. It has no need for sight, its skin is translucent. Its eyes are small, sunken, and sealed, but its senses of smell and vibration are heightened beyond our understanding. It can detect the presence of prey or mate from meters away through the soft language of pressure and scent. It has adapted not to see less, but to sense more. The world around it still exists. It simply meets it differently. This is what happens in the dark. Vision recedes, but perception deepens. Life doesn't vanish, it adjusts. Even in total blackness, biology keeps unfolding, designing new ways to explore space. Crickets in Hawaiian lava tubes have lost their eyes completely. Their antennae have grown longer, more sensitive, able to read the air like fingers reading silk. Spiders in caves become white, colorless, their bodies more delicate, their legs stretched for silent walking. Insects, crustaceans, worms, all of them changing with the rock, blending into the stone, learning to move without looking. And sometimes it goes the other way. Some animals live in the dark but still have eyes, strange eyes. The barrel-eye fish has a transparent head and upward-facing eyes hidden beneath a dome of jelly. It lives in the deep ocean, where light is scarce and distorted. Its eyes swivel inside its head like periscopes, tracking the faint glows of bioluminescence above. Other fish have mirrored lenses, or eyes that reflect light like tapetum in cats, seeing not in clarity but in glimmers. They are tuned to starlight through water, to flashes from other creatures, to echoes of motion. These are not just biological oddities, they are solutions. Nature in its quiet wisdom never stops trying. If light disappears, other ways of knowing emerge. If one door closes, another opens within the skin, the nerves, the cells. To see without light is not blindness. It is adaptation, a rerouting, a soft surrender to the world as it is. And this surrender is not weakness, it is strength. Because it takes courage even at the cellular level to change what once worked, to let go of eyes, to let go of color, to let touch and sound and pressure become the new way forward. These creatures are not broken, they are not lost. They are simply tuned to a different spectrum, a quieter spectrum, a slower, deeper way of being. So next time you find yourself in darkness, literal or not, remember the cavefish, the ohm, the spider with no eyes. They do not panic in the absence of light. They do not freeze. They listen. They feel. They move with care. They trust that even without sight, the world is still there, waiting to be read not by vision but by presence. Let's slip deeper into this world where darkness is not a danger but a home, where creatures thrive not in spite of the night but because of it. In these depths, vision is replaced by a web of other senses, each tuned to the faintest ripple, the slightest echo, the gentlest shift in air or current. This is not blindness. This is a kind of quiet genius. Where our world is shaped by light and reflection, theirs is shaped by vibration, temperature, chemical gradients. A cavefish does not need to see a pebble to avoid it. It feels the way water curves around it. A millipede in a dark tunnel does not need to see a predator to flee. It smells its presence before it arrives. These are senses that live not in the eyes but in the skin, in the bones, in long antennae and feathered hairs. In blind crayfish, delicate sensors along the claws and body detect the subtlest pressure. In cave beetles, long legs feel the floor ahead with each step, mapping the unseen in touch. And in the deep sea, where darkness presses like weight, anglerfish use light not to see but to be seen. A bulb glows from their forehead, a lure to draw prey close. The light is not from the fish itself, but from bacteria that live in harmony with it, glowing gently, a signal in the dark. This is not vision, it is communication. And this communication stretches across species. Some deep-sea creatures emit pulses of bioluminescence to confuse predators, flashes that distract or mimic larger animals. Some squid release clouds of glowing ink, not to vanish in color but to vanish in brightness. In a world where light is rare, even a spark can become a scream. Bioluminescence becomes language. A burst means danger. A flicker means food. A glow means love. Sight here is not about shape or detail, it's about rhythm. And then there are creatures whose eyes have gone in strange directions. The four-eyed fish swims at the water's surface with eyes split horizontally. The top half watches above, the bottom half below. One world of air, one world of water, It sees both but never fully. The world comes in halves. It must balance its focus between two realms. A metaphor, perhaps, for how many creatures live, part here, part elsewhere, never entirely in one place. Other creatures have eyes that face opposite directions, like flatfish that begin life with one eye on each side of their head but slowly shift until both are on the same side. As they settle into life on the seafloor, their very face reshapes to match the world. Their skeleton bends. Their perspective shifts. Evolution, in its patience, sculpts not just behavior but anatomy to match the needs of darkness and depth. And in the insect world, some creatures rely on eyes so complex they see in ways we cannot. Moths, drawn to the moonlight, see ultraviolet patterns on flowers invisible to us. Some deep-sea shrimp can detect polarized light, waves bent by scattering particles, giving them vision not in color but in pattern. Some creatures detect heat with pits near their eyes. Some use echolocation to create images from sound. These are not replacements for vision. They are visions in different languages. This reminds us that sight is a flexible word. What we see with our eyes is only one sliver of reality. Our visible spectrum is narrow. Infrared lies below it, ultraviolet above. Radio waves, X-rays, microwaves, they all fill the space around us, unseen but real. Other animals see them. Snakes sense heat. Bees see ultraviolet. Birds may see magnetic fields. Bats draw maps in sound. The world is layered, and each creature sees the layer it needs. So what happens when one of those layers is taken away? When light disappears, life shifts. It doesn't vanish, it adapts. It listens harder, it stretches longer. It changes the shape of its eyes or loses them altogether. It lets other senses rise. And in that shift is something deeply elegant, life reducing itself to essentials, not less alive but more refined. And it's not only in caves or ocean trenches. Even on the surface, in the forest at night, creatures adjust to darkness. Owls have eyes so large they barely move, funneling every speck of starlight into the brain. Frogs' pupils expand into wide ovals. Cats' eyes gleam with reflected light. Night is not absence, it is invitation. An invitation to be slower, quieter, sharper. It does not blind, it deepens. And in that deepening there is a kind of softness, a kind of grace. The blind cave salamander lives for decades in the dark, moving rarely, feeding slowly. Its life is not filled with fear or confusion. It is calm. It is adapted. It is enough. The world outside the cave may be faster, brighter, louder, but it is not better. These creatures are not lost in the dark. They are found in it. So when light fades in your own life, when clarity dims, when direction blurs, remember them. Remember the fish that sees by current, the shrimp that reads the wave, the beetle that feels with its feet. They do not rush to reclaim light. They stay. They adapt. They grow new ways of knowing. And in that darkness they do not disappear. They become. Now let's sit inside this darkness and watch how it becomes a canvas, not of fear but of form. Life here is not shaped by light but by texture, echo, vibration, and memory. In this shadowed world, creatures are sculpted by the spaces they move through. Their bodies bend with tunnels, stretch with currents, widen with silence. The blind do not stumble, they glide. They do not crave vision, they have replaced it. Their maps are written in scent and warmth, in the feel of the floor, in the breath of the water as it presses past skin. And that map, though invisible to us, is as clear to them as sunlight is to our eyes. Deep ocean, where pressure would crush lungs and where no sunbeam reaches, some creatures build light from within. Lanternfish, hatchetfish, anglerfish, they carry tiny lanterns of bioluminescence. Some shine from below to erase their silhouette. Others flash to startle or attract. A shrimp may shoot glowing clouds to vanish into the dark. A squid may send a ripple of light across its body like a silent signal. This is vision reimagined, where light is no longer just something seen, but something used. It is currency, it is armor, it is language. And not all these lights come from the animals themselves. Many are powered by bacteria, mutualistic microbes that glow inside hosts. The flashlight fish carries glowing bacteria in pouches beneath its eyes like headlamps. It uses them to find prey, to follow companions, and even to blink a warning by covering and uncovering the light. These partnerships remind us that even in the darkest places, life doesn't live alone. The dark is not emptiness. It is community, built in new ways, softer ways, ways lit from within. Above ground in caves, bats fill the darkness with sound. High-pitched calls bounce from stone to wingtip. In milliseconds, echoes return, not as words but as shapes, distance, motion, texture. A bat can fly through a forest of stalactites and never touch a single one. Its eyes are small, but its ears are vast. In their stillness, caves become listening chambers. Sound here is not noise, it is navigation, it is sight made audible. And still, there are those who return to light but carry darkness with them. Creatures who live above ground, yet come from eyeless ancestors. Some fish in turbid rivers rely more on pressure than sight. Some amphibians, though surface dwellers, respond more to scent and touch. Even in humans, our skin senses temperature before our mind does. Our feet adjust to uneven ground without us thinking. Our ears can locate the source of a sound before our eyes turn. These are ancestral skills, remnants of earlier adaptations that still whisper beneath our awareness. We tend to elevate vision as the highest sense, but the lives that thrive in darkness challenge that. They tell us that knowing the world doesn't depend on seeing it, that understanding can rise from movement, from rhythm, from the soft tapping of antennae on stone. That life does not shrink in darkness, it grows quieter, sharper, deeper, and in that depth it does not lose itself, it finds new ways. There is poetry in the way these creatures accept what is gone. The cavefish does not mourn its sight. The salamander does not search for light. They do not long for what their ancestors had. They do not cling to what no longer serves. They lean into change. They say, if the world is dark, then let me become something else. Something that belongs here. Something that thrives here. There is no fear in that, only wisdom. And perhaps that is the gentlest lesson of all, that light is not always necessary to find our way. That sometimes when vision fades, new senses awaken. That sometimes the absence of one thing makes space for the rise of another. The darkness we fear may be a place of transformation, not loss, a place where other truths unfold. So the next time you close your eyes, let yourself imagine what might be waiting there, not emptiness but another kind of awareness, the kind that listens harder, the kind that touches with intention, the kind that feels the air shift and knows the path by how it flows. In the dark there is still motion, still meaning, still life, all of it breathing quietly beneath our notice, but not beneath our wonder.